Welcome back to Sippin With Sin, the podcast where we talk about stuff and things and stuff that are important to everybody across the world. It is the number one podcast of such and things, proven by people far smarter than us. Don't question it. Don't even try to look it up. The analytics are correct. Scientists proved it. That's all you need to know. Don't worry about it. All right, but we're back, and we have to have a moment of silence. Moment of silence, because today is November 1st, and that means spooky season has come to a close for everybody but us, because spooky season lives 365 days a year. A year, 365 days a year in our hearts. So, what are we going to talk about today? You may have guessed it. We're talking more spooky stuff because we do what we want in this podcast, and yeah, that's all we got to say about that. So let's welcome back our esteemed colleague, the one and only newly married man, Mr. Christian.
Hello, everyone. It feels good to be back for another episode. Even though spooky season may be over for most of us, we are spooky season. So if you're listening to this podcast, you have exactly what you need. Every week we bring you the spooky season because we are the spooky season. And yes, it does feel good to be a married man. Whatever anybody tells you about getting married, just know that though it is stressful leading up to your day, it is fantastic. And
question, did you enjoy your day though?
I did enjoy my day.
Were you allowed to enjoy your day? I guess is the more important question.
Yes, the wedding itself was very small, very intimate, not a lot of people. So because of that, I was able to enjoy it. There were a lot of pictures to be taken, but
see, that was my problem when I got married. Like you said, the leading up to it, which not so much on me as the bride and all that. Like my job pretty much was to say, that's fine. Whatever you want, that's fine. Like that's essentially what I had to do leading up. Minus a couple things is like, I don't want that. Past that, like I just agreed and let her do her thing to help with stress. And then the day of, our photographer was an asshat.
Oh wow.
So like she was by the book, sticking to like, you have me for this many hours. So literally every time like I would go anywhere, I'd go like see like groomsmen or friends, and I'd be like, hey, I'm like talking to people. I would get tapped on the shoulders like, you're needed for this. You gotta go here. Or you gotta do this. Like even eating, like we really didn't eat. We had all the food or whatever, and we barely ate because it was like, all right, you need to go cut the cake. All right, you need to do this. You gotta do that. And I was just like, bro,
yeah. So
this is supposed to be our day. Can you piss off?
Ours was very non-conventional. We didn't have a wedding cake. We had wedding donuts. And our photographer was very awesome. Her name's Abby. Abby, if you ever listen to this, you were fantastic. We literally took all our pictures directly after the ceremony. Like as soon as we, said our vows and I-dos and all that, and then walked off the podium and like, they play a song for you to walk out to. Right after that, we were taking our pictures, boom, boom, boom. We went over here, boom, boom, boom. Family pictures, boom, boom, boom. Pictures together, boom, boom, boom. Pictures by yourself. And then we walked over to another part because we got married like on the lake. So we took some pictures by the water, and then we were done. And then we could have the rest of the day to ourselves. We literally were gone for like an hour, maybe. About an hour right after the ceremony itself. And then we had the rest of our day to do what we wanted to do. So we, people made speeches, and they were heartfelt. They were beautiful. I mean, the emotions were everywhere during these speeches. My best man, Warren, made a really good speech. My brother.
Shout out,
Will,
Warren.
he made a
He's
speech.
a real one.
Will made a speech, and it was,
Shout out, Will.
got me, man. It was fantastic. And other, like, not to shit on anybody who made a speech I'm not naming right now. It's just for the sake of time. A lot of people decided that they wanted to get up and speak about us, about how they met us, our relationship, and what's going on, and what they wish for us in the future. And it was fantastic, man. I can't lie, it was great. And most of these speeches were very unscripted, and like Zach, my buddy Zach, shout out to you. You got up and made a speech that was unscripted, and it was
Can I say
super hard.
I don't know why, but you posted some pictures over the event, like the days leading up to it and stuff. And you shared like a video someone had made for you guys or something. It was I don't remember who posted, but I saw Zach. You're talking about Mr. Blaylock, correct?
No, that's Josh. That's Josh
Josh Blaylock.
Blaylock that you're
I'm
talking
a
about.
failure.
Yeah.
I saw him though, a video of him, and I was like, oh, I haven't seen that man in forever. Like,
Yeah,
God, dude,
he's
it's probably
also
been easily 10+ years,
yeah, he's also getting married
and it
or
warmed my
already is
heart.
married, one of the two.
I did
Yeah.
see, wasn't he used to play fighting games with us. Um,
Ooh. Come on,
um,
Rob.
huh?
Come on, Rob.
I think so. Yeah,
E-Man.
yeah. I'm
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
sure I
He was
saw him
there.
in one of the videos, and I was like, oh,
Yeah, he was looking fresh as hell,
yeah.
dude. He came
I
in with
saw a
this
lot of
like
people I literally have not seen in, God, dude,
in a
forever.
decade, right?
Yeah.
Like in a literal decade. Yeah, it's
Made me
been,
happy
dude.
though.
People, it was,
It made me
dude. It was
really happy.
heartfelt. It felt awesome. Everybody was just so excited. There was no diva moments. There was no people getting pissed off moments. I know that like at a point, my mom was talking a lot and definitely enjoying the libations there. But aside from that, dude, it was sick, man. It was so dope. Everybody just was chill and cool. And it got to the point to where we were literally just in on the dance floor, just the top of our lungs, just singing Linkin Park, Evanescence.
I saw the
Like
Evanescence video, and I saw you also rapping.
I was. There's a song by Project Pat called Chicken Head that I
Oh
that
my
I love.
God, dude, that's
And I was just
juiced
rapping
up.
the whole thing, dude. I couldn't help it.
Jesus.
But yeah, dude, it was awesome. Everybody looked so good. The groomsmen looked fantastic. Their suits turned out amazing. My suit turned out really good. Or I almost said suit, but Joe's dress was beautiful.
What
Like it
shoes
was
were you
awesome,
wearing? Did you
man.
have bedazzled shoes on?
We had on our wedding Doc Martens
Okay,
actually,
I knew they were
and
boots, but I
yeah,
was like, what is all over his boots? Like, this
yeah,
man
they,
straight
they were
up.
star because our wedding was like galaxy themed, if you will, like
Okay,
stars in the
all right,
sky
that
thing.
makes sense
So
then.
we had like starry boots. So like when I was on the dance floor, I was like, yeah, I'm just new boot goofing.
Oh
I
my
would.
God, this
It was
guy.
ridiculous. Yeah. Oh yeah. I had to be myself, of course. But it was a great day, great night, and
I'm
everybody
disappointed in
had
myself
fun.
for thinking Josh's name was like, I don't know why. Like, I had Josh's face in my head, so you said Zach, and like that's just the first person. Like,
That's
sorry,
fair. That's
Josh, if
fair.
you're
I
listening,
get
I'm
it.
sorry, sir. Love you, boo boo.
But yeah, man, it was awesome. We had a great day, and yeah. I mean, the best thing I can say for getting married is it feels exactly the same. It's just legal now.
Now
That's
you have a
it. It
piece of
feels
paper
great.
that says you're married. Like, that's
Exactly.
especially if you've been in like a serious relationship, and you've been together for a while and all that stuff. I mean, it's especially if you live together or anything. It's
Yeah.
There's no difference. Like, if you're already paying bills and you're living together, it's literally just a piece of paper
Mhm.
and a celebration, and then it's pretty much the same. You wear a
Yeah.
ring.
Like exactly. And man, we've been together for a long time. We've known each other forever since high school. We've been together
And there's
for
name changes. Most
five
cases.
years. There'll be some subtle name changes for sure, but it's been great and it will continue to be great. But all that mushy stuff out to the side. What have you been up to this? I guess you guys know what I've been up to this past week. And as far as watching stuff goes, um, I did watch a good chunk of Castlevania Nocturne. Watch that. I didn't finish it. I still got a few episodes left to finish the season out strong. I did start that. I started the One Piece live action show. I only saw the first episode. It's way better than I thought it was going to be. Does it? I mean, I don't think it's like the best thing I've ever seen, but it's not garbage. So that says a lot because I expected the One Piece live action Netflix show to be complete boo boo shoes. But I did like the first episode. With that said, there's a caveat. I am not the biggest One Piece fan. I know that's like grounds for termination, right?
I
But
don't as
I like One Piece. Don't get me wrong. I like One Piece, and I am like caught up enough on One Piece. I'm not fully caught up, but I know how to get caught up. I know how long it's going to take me to get fully caught up. It's just not my chosen manga slash anime of choice, but it is good. It is fantastic. I think it's one of the best stories written in anime. Obviously, it's super long, yes, but it's
I just
really
don't
good.
think
I
it's for
just
me.
prefer
I just have no desire to
right.
do One Piece at this time.
I prefer the darker stories. You know what I'm saying? But
And
One
it's a
Piece
very long story, so I
is
know
very long.
I'm gonna be in it for way too long. I don't know. Like I saw the thing like other day about it, and I was just like, I just don't know if it's something necessary for
What?
me. If it's your
Yeah.
thing, by all means, I'm not shitting on it. But for
What
me,
I
I
could
just don't
say
know.
for people like you in particular, myself included, before I started it, but like One Piece starts off pretty slow, and you don't know exactly what you're getting until you start getting into it for sure. It is not for everybody. That is hands down. It's not for everybody. It is really good. I will. It's like saying Star Wars is trash. Like I would never say that. I know that it's not for everyone, obviously,
Yeah,
but
I mean, I have nothing to
it's
knock
it's
against it.
it's
I
very.
just don't think it's something that will appeal to me that I would want to invest time into
And for those
personally.
of you who want to get into One Piece, who don't want to spend the years that it would take to watch it, like
It's a
obviously not
1,000+
everything.
episodes, right?
That's correct. Obviously, you don't have to watch every single episode because some of the stuff isn't necessary. But if you want to start watching One Piece and you want to cut all the BS out, all the BS, I'm talking about all the filler, all the conversations you don't need, all the scenery you don't need to see, all the songs you don't need to hear, like everything you don't need, go to onepace.com. And One Pace is literally just a string of the videos from every single episode, and they cut out everything you don't need. So it would take you half the time to catch up on
It would take you half
One
your life
Piece.
instead of your whole life.
Study Hall of, yeah. But it's if you want to watch One Piece, if you want to experience any of One Piece,
Is that the
onepace.com
longest
is where
running
you need to
anime?
go.
It has to be.
That I know of, yeah, absolutely.
I don't know anything
That's
that's
consistent. That's consistent, yeah.
yeah.
But anyway, I did watch that to say that, and I got two new books that I'll read at some point. The one that I actually wanted to talk about is called The Ritual. The Ritual is written by Adam Neville. I've seen the movie that is adapted from this book. It's on Netflix, and I've probably talked about it on this podcast before. But The Ritual is a movie that's on Netflix. I know the story in general. I've actually wanted to buy this book several times, but it's always too much. And then I went to in Nashville. There's a store called McKay's Books, and McKay's sells a bunch of books, movies, uh, comics, like everything you want. Anything you want to collect, they sell it, and they sell it at a discounted price. It's a secondhand store. It's awesome. And that's where I got this. I got this for $11 when it should have cost me 20. So, um, roughly half off. And I took that because everywhere I've gone to go buy this book, it's always been $20 or over, and I just don't want to spend that on this. So having it at McKay's for $11 was awesome. So I definitely want to read that. And then I am a huge stan, so I did pick up a $2 copy of Angel Shakedown. It is a novel roughly based off of some episodes we probably never got to see in the show. It's just a little trash read for me. Like honestly, I'll read this like on a plane, and get through it. It's not very long, which is awesome for me because I don't want to read a super long book about Angel the Vampire if I don't have to necessarily. But I'm such a huge fan that was a perfect buy for me for $2, and it's based off the first season of the show, so I was really excited about that. But that's about all that I've had time for this past week, aside from just living the spooky life in general. So, Sin, tell us what you've been reading, watching, listening
Um,
to.
I have been doing a lot of music stuff. Um, just music streams and stuff like that. Trying to do more of that. Definitely trying to get back in shape. And I have to say, Christian, you know that post-show feeling, that
Mm-hmm.
sweaty, exhausted. You know you're gonna be a little sore the next day, just because for like that time period you went ham. So I've been doing like roughly 2-hour sets, and I definitely have that post-show like holy hell, like I'm exhausted, but in the good way. But then I'm also like, damn, I'm gonna be a little sore tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
But it feels good though, in a weird way. Like you also kind of like, I don't know if it's a good term or not, but you kind of express demons during that point. Like it's such a good stress relief. Like you're so exhausted after the fact. Like especially in my case, considering I'm screaming for 2 hours. Like at that point, my body's like, all right, bro. I don't know if you got anything else in you like that you want to get out, but it's been a lot of fun. I've enjoyed that. Past that, I've watched movies. I've been posting them on socials. Doing my 31 nights of horror challenge that we do every year. Me and the missus watch a different movie. And just quick recap of those. I've watched There's Something Wrong with the Children. I've watched
Nice.
Orphan
How
First
was
Kill.
that, by the way?
Which one?
Something Wrong with the Children? How was that?
It is not what I expected. It was interesting. It was different, so it gets points for being different. But it was honestly probably the last thing when I saw, like, when I saw certain aspects of it, I was like, that would have been the last thing from my mind, just as what would have happened, like what's going on.
Gotcha.
And I was just like, wow, that is okay. Like, it's interesting. It was interesting. It's definitely worth a watch if you're a horror fan. I believe Blumhouse did it. Can't remember where all it's streaming, but definitely worth a watch. I watched Orphan First Kill, and I have to make a statement. I am not a big fan of the Orphan series. It just they're okay. Like, I'll watch them, but am I truly invested? Not really. I don't know what it is. Like, the first one was creepy in a way. This one was, it had some twists that kind of took away from the creepiness, and then I was like, so it's essentially, obviously, First Kill is a prequel to Orphan. So, but yeah.
So this is what I'll say. I saw both films. The original Orphan, I really like that movie. Like, it's not
when
even
you
a
first
guilty
watched
pleasure.
the original Orphan, and it has a good twist, and you're like, okay, that's cool. So, like, I said, I'm not a huge fan of it, but I appreciate it. This one was kind of.
I mean, yeah, so going in, I thought I was gonna hate the movie. I really did, but I vastly enjoyed the second one. I know it's a prequel, so you kind of knew what was gonna happen if you saw the first one because they explain what happens. I just liked seeing the actors do their thing, man. I really like seeing her come back playing the same character without CGI, just makeup.
I just think the Julia Stiles, right? Yeah.
Yeah, Julia Stiles.
I just think that whole twist with their character was like, is that needed? Like,
it's not, in my brain. It's not necessarily that it was needed. It's that it made the story a little bit more interesting because, like I said before, we already knew what was going to happen based off of just watching the first movie. So it just made it a little more interesting. It just made me want to continue watching it a little bit longer. You know what I'm saying? And that's pretty much that's what happened the entirety of watching this film. Like, we watched this thing, it was cool. We kept going till we got to the end of the film, and I was like, okay, this is the end. This is how it ends. This is how we get to the original. Like, I understand. I didn't hate anything that I saw. Nothing stood out to me that was like amazing, but it was just a good little watch. So if you watch that movie and then watch the original Orphan, yeah, it definitely takes away because the twist is completely gone. But if you've seen those movies before already, then just enjoy it. Just enjoy them. It's definitely a turn your brain off, popcorn watch for me, and I enjoyed that a lot. It's exactly what I needed it to be. I didn't need them to try to reinvent the wheel with that. I just really wanted to watch a film that had some kills, and that's what I got. So
okay.
I enjoyed that aspect of it. But for everybody who doesn't like the film, everybody who didn't like it, who didn't have something good to say about it, who didn't need this movie, makes perfect sense as well. So I totally get it.
Moving on, I watched Drag Me to Hell one night, which the missus did not like. And I tried to explain going in, I'm like, look, this is like Evil Dead, so you have to take it like an Evil Dead movie. Just think over the top. Don't be saying it's like awful because they're going over top, because that's Raimi's calling card. That's what he does. It's like, that's just what they do. And she still was like, that was awful. And I was like, whatever.
You don't understand.
I was just like, I'm not even arguing. Like, okay, whatever. Past that one, also, if you haven't watched Drag Me to Hell, watch Drag Me to Hell. Jacob's Ladder. I've rewatched it for the first time in years. I actually saw it on a streaming site. I believe I saw it on like Prime Video or something. And I was like, oh yeah, I got to watch it again. And I still enjoyed it. Not gonna lie, I don't remember it having the twist at the end.
Oh yeah.
I
Must
remember
haven't
a
seen it
lot
in
of
a
the
while.
movie, and I remember a lot of the plots and the stuff that stuck out in my brain when I think of Jacob's Ladder, like certain scenes that obviously like are embedded in my brain. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, a very interesting movie. I believe there's a remake, correct?
Yeah, I think so. I
I've
haven't
never
watched. I haven't
seen
seen
it,
it.
and I don't know that I want to see it because I don't know. Um, definitely is it dated? Yes, it was a '90s movie. Yeah, but still solid watch. I also watched Slayers,
Ooh.
and I'm not gonna lie, I half-ass paid attention because Slayers to me is my wife put this probably the best way you could. If you take Zombieland,
Mhm.
but make them vampires, and then you take
Okay.
there was a show on, I think it was Netflix, that was like the TikTok stars. It was like Hype House or something. I can't remember. Maybe it was called Hype House. But you take that generation and that kind of like stuff and you put it with Zombieland and you pretty much got Slayers. Do I think this movie could be something that like grows on you? You know, those movies where like you watch it the first time, you're like, it's okay. Because it is more of a
Yeah.
comedy horror. Do I think it's something
Yeah.
like over time I could eventually like the more I watch it, it's kind of like it grows on you and you end up appreciating it? Possibly.
Mhm.
But was I impressed with my first watch through? No, not really. Not at all. Like it's just
So
goofy horror.
you're saying you would watch it again, but you're not
Possibly.
rushing
I
to watch it
definitely
again.
I think I owe it to the movie and I might hate myself after the fact for owing it to the
Mhm.
movie. Like if I may rewatch and be like, yeah, I shouldn't have rewatched it because this is Boo Boo Shoes. It has a very good chance of being Boo Boo Shoes. But there is
Got it.
also that
Got it.
small glimmer of hope because Thomas Jane and a bunch of other people are in it. And it is like a very, I don't know how to word it. Like, it has like a vampire human scoreboard that pops up on the screen. You have like tons of like social media stuff. And it's like, hey, we're live right now. Come hang out with us. We're the most viral vampire hunter. Blah, blah, blah. Like that kind of like goofy, annoying stuff.
Mhm.
It could be something that would grow on me. I don't know. But initial impression, I half-ass paid attention. Plus, I was like working on stuff too, and I was just like, eh. So Slayers. I think it's a Hulu. Is it a Hulu original or is it? I think it's Hulu. I
I
don't think
think
it's
it's
Peacock.
Hulu. Pretty sure.
And then I doubled up one night for Friday the 13th, and I watched
Nice.
the Friday 13th Part 1 and Friday 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan, or as my community has called it, Jason on a Boat.
I mean, I can't argue with that
We
though.
all actually
That's
had a
what it
movie night and
is.
watched them together, and yeah, that was interesting.
You watched the first one and number 8.
Yeah. It was just supposed to be
That's
first one
hilarious.
because I let them vote, and then a couple dipped out, but a bunch were like, "Let's watch another one." So they voted on part 8, and I was like, "Oh my god, whatever."
I wonder why part 8
Because it's Jason
was
on
the
a boat.
one.
They kept saying that. It was between part 8 and X Space, which they were wanting an awful one because they watched Winnie Pooh, Blood and Honey a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, that
So
one
they
was
just,
that
yeah,
was a
I don't
lot.
know. They're whatever. And then I've also watched, and I'm very disappointed in myself for not watching this before, but The Autopsy of Jane Doe, which was interesting. Interesting movie.
Very much so, yeah. Very much so, yeah.
Nice twist in it. Like I said, never seen it before. I don't know why I've passed up on it so much, but very interesting. But I have taken too long, and it is time that we get to our meat and potatoes. So, this week, we alluded to this, talking about slashers and your Mount Rushmore of slashers previously.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
this week, we are going to talk about the Mount Rushmore of horror. And I'm going to allow Christian to give the premise rules because you could break this down into multiple ways, multiple categories, multiple genres. There's a lot of ways you could do this. So I'm going to let him essentially break down how we are going to list our Mount Rushmore of horror.
So the way that I see this, our Mount Rushmore of horror, just horror characters. It doesn't necessarily have to be villains, doesn't have to be the main characters, right? But horror characters in horror films that we all know and love. What would be our Mount Rushmore of these characters? Now, if you wanted to pick a bunch of just villains from these horror movies that we like, say for example Hannibal Lecter or Buffalo Bill, if those are your favorites, you think they deserve the spot on that horror Mount Rushmore, then you say that, and then you give us the reasons why you think they deserve to be on your Mount Rushmore. So, with that said, I will actually start the list off just to make it a little smoother. I'll name one, and then Sin, if you'd like to go next, you can name one, and we'll just go back and forth until we're done. Because on Mount Rushmore, we know there's 4 people, so we will
Fair.
start that. And to start my list, I'm going to say Frankenstein's monster is definitely one of the people on my Mount Rushmore of horror. And the reason for that is because the story, the actual story of Frankenstein's monster is amazing. The creature himself or itself is amazing. Um, its motivations, its reasonings, why it does what it does, the killings that happen because of that, because of the doctor rather, because he's the real monster. If you guys have read the book or seen at least one of the adaptations, the monster is the doctor, and the creature is just he's a casualty of what was happening. I love that character. I love his reason, and I mean like the actual Frankenstein's monster character, not the version that we get in the Universal. I do love that version as well, but it is vastly different, right?
You talking about from the book?
In the book, for Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, okay. Her monster, her creature was very intelligent, could speak, could reason, had a soul, like everything. I love that version of the creature, and that is actually my favorite book of all time, is Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, for all of these reasons. And I think that if you want to have a horror Mount Rushmore of characters, you definitely need to have an old school character up there, and that would be my old school character, Frankenstein's monster. So I don't know if you agree or disagree with that choice.
That. I can get behind sweet. Frankenstein for sure. The Frankenstein's monster.
And I will say this too,
because there is always confusion. Those that are not as, I don't know, horror savvy, I guess, tend to just call Frankenstein the monster, what you would see with the bolts in the neck and stuff like that. But Frankenstein is actually Dr. Frankenstein. Frankenstein's monster is the creation. So, to piggyback off that, to start my Mount Rushmore of horror would be Dracula. Dracula has went through the years. He is pretty much a staple in what countless franchises and directors and things have made vampire movies off of based on the lore. And not only that, without Dracula in 1931 it pretty much did save Universal Studios during the Great Depression. It was a financial success that helped keep them afloat and keep them going, and also helped spawn more Universal pictures and horror movies and stuff like that. So Dracula is a very integral part of the horror, I guess, not society, horror history. But
that makes perfect sense, actually. Yeah.
And not only that, 100%. I mean, you have the book from God, dude. When did Bram Stoker write Dracula? 18. Actually,
I don't remember that date.
What's the date? It's old. The book is very old. Much like Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, these are staples that have been around for forever. Like it's the novel. 1897 was May 26th of 1897.
Shit, man. That it is definitely. I've read Bram Stoker's Dracula, by the way.
It is a very dry read too. It's a little rough to get through, but
there are definite points in that book that are extremely dry, and it is a definite work of literacy for sure. But there are parts that are just super fucking boring. But I have read the book. It is very different from the movie that came out in I think 92.
Yeah.
Coppola movie, but it's still good. But the movie takes all of the things about the book that are good, they keep them together, and then they expand on that in a way that makes it a little bit more digestible for just the average person. But I do really enjoy that. I think that Dracula being on the list on the Mount Rushmore of horror characters is prolific, and I think that makes perfect sense. I have no questions.
Yep.
The next thing on my list is really difficult.
Layups on the first ones. I mean, those are pretty.
Yeah. The next one is really difficult for me because the character that I'm choosing has actually only been in one movie. They've been in a couple of comic books. They've been in a game. But as far as films go, only one. It is one of my favorite films of all time. But I'm going to go with J.R. McCready from The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing, to be exact. And I was actually going to choose the creature, the Thing creature itself. But every single time I watch The Thing, McCready and Childs really are my two favorite characters. And McCready is definitely the most well-rounded and better written character for sure. So he took the cake for me, and I would challenge any horror lover to explain to me why McCready doesn't deserve a spot on the Mount Rushmore of horror. So just to go in, like if you haven't seen The Thing, first off, what is wrong with you? Because it's one of, like I said, the best movies in general, but especially horror. One of the best that I've ever seen. That I think a lot of people will ever seen, have ever seen, will ever see. My words just aren't wording right now. But with that said, I really, really love the movie. I think that it is fantastic, and to I can't wait for somebody to argue that fact. If there is a person that exists that is listening to this, please explain to me why you think McCready doesn't deserve a spot on the list. Aside from him only being in the one movie, like explain to me why he doesn't belong up there. But aside, I could talk about him all day. I love his character. He's the best character in the movie. Let's be real. He gets shit done. He gets the test going. He handles shit. He gets control of the group more than one time. And then when you get to the ending of the movie, with the kind of thing that they're dealing with, like how else could that have ended? And it would have been a good ending, acceptable ending, right? And it leaves room for you to come up with your own shit, your own headcanon for sure. I know some people like that, like myself. Some people don't like it, like a lot of other people. But I challenge you to make it work better. Like he's fantastic. And when I think of like especially like 80s horror characters and tropes and all that, McCready's at the top of that fucking list every time. Sin, let me hear what you got. And
I'm
if
not
you
gonna
agree.
lie, I fully expected Thing in some shape or form, John Carpenter's The Thing, to be in your list somewhere. I knew it in some shape or form. It was gonna be on the list, so it makes sense. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Laurie Strode.
Boy Strode?
Yep,
Boy Strode on your list? All right.
I'm
Makes
putting her up
perfect
there.
sense
I'm
to
putting
me.
Jamie Lee because for me, when you think of Final Girls and what has, I don't. Was she the first Final Girl? No, she wasn't. Was she?
No.
But she is what changed to me. And this is my list, so I can say what the hell I want. She is what changed the whole landscape of Final Girls and gave you the blueprint of what a Final Girl should be like. And I think she is what a lot of people have used since then to do their Final Girls.
Mhm.
So I have to give it
Like
to
the
her
template.
as one of the most iconic horror characters of all time. So she gets to be up there.
That does make a lot of sense to me, and I get that 100%.
I'm trying to think, like, before her, you had. Was there a Final Girl in The Town That Dreaded Sundown?
Yeah, I haven't seen that movie in so
It's been a
long.
long time for me. That's why I'm struggling.
I don't want to say that incorrectly because I
I mean,
literally
you
haven't
have
seen that
your
in so long.
Texas Chainsaw, but it's not the same. Like you have more of a. I feel like you have more attachment to Laurie than you do them.
I mean, yeah.
So
Yeah.
I feel like that's what they take that Carpenter and them, and that's what helps spawn. Kind of like they've done with Sidney Prescott, or even Nancy with Nightmare and stuff like that. You get an attachment to this certain character, and you want to see them throughout movies. Like they did that with Laurie. You actually gave a damn about Laurie.
Full disclosure for all of you guys listening and watching, I didn't add Final Girls on this list because I'm saving that for another episode.
Well,
And
Christian didn't tell
if
me
I
that,
start,
so I guess you'll get
And if
Lori
I
on another episode as well. But
will.
Jamie Lee
And
to
if-
me
and
has
if-
to be up there.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. But the thing with the final girls, here's for me personally. This has nothing to do with you, Sim, but for me personally, if I start listing final girls at all on here, my entire list is going to be final girls because final girls are the best part of these movies, right? Aside from whoever or whatever the actual horrific thing, the killer, whatever, what have you is. Aside from that, the final girls are what we're watching the movie for. They literally carry the entire film. So without them, the films aren't the same at all. Take Laurie Strode away
Way
from
to just
Michael
shit on my
Myers.
list, Christian. Just
No,
saying.
no, no.
Jamie
This
Lee
is
doesn't.
just for me. This is just for me because,
much
like
Christian
I said,
said, your list
I
sucks.
am mentally unable to just list Lori and then not go back and list like a Sydney or a Nancy. You know what I'm saying? It's so hard for me to do.
There's not really one in Friday the 13th.
I mean, there are, but they just don't last.
Not really. That rolls around though, right?
That is correct. You're correct in that.
Because when I think of Friday the 13th and a character that spans Tommy Jarvis would be it. Like as far as jumping around, right?
Ooh, Tommy Jarvis, man. Tommy
right?
Jarvis.
I mean,
I'm gonna.
You don't really have a Loomis. You don't have a, well, we already said Nancy, or even like a Dewey or like a returning character as much as Tommy. I feel like in Friday the 13th.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's mainly
You're
different counselors, different areas, different people that Jason's just dealing with.
I agree with that 100%.
Okay.
With that said, I guess I'll go to my next one because you had Lori, so I'll go to my next one. Like I said, guys, this list was very difficult, and I have so many like alternatives I could have used for this list. But for the sake of the episode and it not running for 2 hours, the next person on my list, thing on my list, creature on my list is Pennywise the Dancing Clown, also known as Robert Gray. Like Pennywise, and for me, is one of the coolest, scariest horror characters in general. And it's not because I think clowns are scary, it's because of what Pennywise actually is, right? He's not a clown. He just appears as a clown because it's easy and because children, at least at the time, liked clowns, and it was easier for him to get a hold of them if he were something that they liked. But dude, Pennywise is dope. He's a fucking demigod, essentially, like from space, right? He comes here and he invades the minds of everybody in the town that he comes in, right? And he infiltrates your mind and can figure out what your biggest fears are against you. He likes children because their minds are a little more simplistic. So kids are scared of very specific things that anybody could be afraid of. Bugs, wolfmen, Frankenstein's monsters, lepers, like stuff that they don't understand in that way. You know what I'm saying? Like it's always some kind of thing that you could put a costume on and be, but because he can morph his body, transform into this thing, feel like this thing, smell like this thing, talk like this thing, he is your fear personified. So it's harder for him to do that for adults because once you get a certain age, the Wolfman doesn't scare you. The dark doesn't necessarily scare you. What scares you is not being able to pay your bills, right? Not being able to support your family, dying alone, those kinds of things. Your car giving out on you at the most inopportune time, knock on wood. But like shit like that is scary. But how do you become that thing? How do you become that fear for adults? It's hard to do. You can't just do that. So the way that Pennywise works, the way that his character, the way that entity like terrorizes people, especially children, that shit fucks with you. And that messed me up as a kid. Not the movie so much, but like reading about this character. And you guys know from listening to the podcast, and those of you who listen to this or watch this that know me, you guys know that I love lore. So the more I learned about what Pennywise is and what it does, the fucking scarier it became. And for that reason, it deserves a spot on this list, on this Mount Rushmore. I couldn't in good conscience add someone else or something else that's not Pennywise to the list because it wouldn't make sense. It just wouldn't make sense to me. So with that said, Sin, do you agree? Do you disagree? Is Pennywise also on
Yes,
your list? Like, tell me your
100%.
thoughts.
Well, he's not on my list per se, but yes, he could be. I have no argument with Pennywise. Pennywise has frightened generations of kids
Yeah,
to make them not like clowns. And he has spawned countless spin-offs or inspired, not necessarily spin-offs, but he's inspired clown movies all around. Like pretty much any clown movie you see that the clown is spooky, um, it's gonna be inspired by Pennywise. I would say safely. I mean, everything from Killer Clowns to probably even Art the Clown in some shape or form has got to have some kind of Pennywise inspiration, I would think. Um, so that is a solid one. Christian made me feel bad about my last answer, so I feel like I'm gonna have to come up with another one since he just doesn't like any of
no,
my
no,
answers.
no, no, no. That
But
wasn't
I'm gonna
said.
piggyback off my
Yeah.
last one, and I'm gonna
Okay,
keep it going by giving it to Mr. Michael A. Myers
Michael Aubrey.
for
Agreed.
to me. Yes, are there slashers before? Yes, but again, and I guess you could say the same argument for Texas Chainsaw, but to me personally, this movie took next to no blood. Very, very little blood is in the original movie. Like a scratch of blood is pretty much all you get. It took this movie. It took a expressionless, voiceless, silent killer and has captivated
A shape, if you will.
Yeah, has captivated audiences for years and has brought countless sequels and remakes. And he, to me, took the slasher genre, and John Carpenter as well, took the slasher genre, redefined it, and again, just like Laurie, I feel like Michael and Laurie are the blueprint to what you want to do for a slasher final girl situation. And so I feel like Michael deserves to be on there because to this day, I don't think there's a mask, with the exception of Pennywise and clowns, that anybody can put on. Anybody can put on. And that is the beauty of wearing this mask. If you're a horror fan and you put a Michael mask on and you just do the slow head turn and you do not make a sound, you will make most people, with the exceptions of people that are just pretty much numb by it, unless you're, I mean, you may even make us nervous depending on your physical stature. But if you wear a Michael mask and you are just expressionless and quiet and you just stare through somebody, you will make anyone uncomfortable. And that is the beauty of that character, is because you just don't know. There is nothing going on. You're like, it's unsettling. And he has to be on my list. I'm a big Halloween and Michael stan, so yeah. Deal with it.
I guess the question is, do I agree with your list, or do I agree with Michael being on the list? And I'll just answer you by saying the next person on my list, for those of you who didn't already know and who aren't watching and can't see my shirt, number one on the list, I guess not number one, but the last person that I'll mention that is the first person that I wrote down is, in fact, Michael Myers. Michael is the first horror character that actually scared the shit out of me. Of course, there are things when I was a kid that scared me. There were characters, there were creatures that got under my skin that gave me nightmares, but nobody else did the work that this silent motherfucker did to me. He has been a part of my life ever since I watched those films. He's been a part of my horror consciousness ever since I heard about Halloween the first time, and he is one of the reasons why spooky season is my favorite season of all time. You cannot, and this is my belief, you cannot be better than Michael. When Michael is done correctly, when he's done right,
He's terrifying.
nothing else works because
You have no
you
rhyme
can
or
fit
reason.
him.
He's just killing to kill.
You can fit him into so many things. You can fit him in the realm to where this is a man. This is just a man, right? And people for us are like the scariest things, right? Just people. Like Ghosts are, oh man, that sucks. Demons, creatures from outer space, from beyond the grave, from under the sea, like all that stuff is creepy. But like Michael could be just any dude, right? He could be. If you put him in that category, it could totally work. He could just be a guy who fucking snapped, who doesn't speak, and just does his thing. Because in the first movie, he does a grunt and shit a little bit. He's he breathes really hard. He never speaks, and that's fucking scary. His mask is emotionless, like you were just saying. When it is done right, it looks like nothing. Just the shape of a person. That's why they called him the shape in the
Soulless
script.
individual. Like it just
Exactly.
there's nothing there.
It's just an entity that has a humanoid form, right? So I love that about it. You could
The
also
best
put him in
part
the
is if you wear the
supernatural realm.
mask, which whenever I wear it in spooky season, you can smile as big as you want because you're having so much fun underneath. No one knows. Like as long as you're not giggling or laughing, you can be sitting there just cheesing and watching someone squirm uncomfortably and being like, nope, just. And it is the best. God is the best. Best mask. Yes.
I agree. And backstory, the original backstory anyway, before we got all the remakes and retellings and whatnot, is just perfect, dude. Just kid fucking snaps one day, quits talking, kills his sister for no fucking reason, goes to a fucking, excuse my language, goes to a loony bin for years, breaks out because somebody taught him how to drive for some reason, and goes back to his hometown and just starts doing that shit all over again, bro. Like it's just like, oh my god, nobody expected it. Like nobody saw the shit coming except for Loomis. Loomis is the only person who tried to protect literally everyone from this shit. Nobody believed him because he's a crazy old man, and it just fucking works. The story slaps. It works. You don't do better than that because, like I said, when it is done correctly, it's masterful. And the character of Michael is masterful. It's scary. It's horrifying. It's perfect. And I could talk about him. Obviously, you guys know me. I could talk about Michael Myers literally for the entire podcast, for every single episode of each thing that we do. I could talk about Michael. I could bring him up. I could talk about how I hate stuff, how I love stuff, how I think it's perfect, how I think it sucks. I could talk about Halloween Ends if I wanted to, but I'm not going to do that today. But like, Michael Myers is the fucking poster child for Halloween to me. I know that there are people out there who would put others in that place. There's your Jason Voorhees, is your other characters, which I'll get into here in a bit. But if I had to say a favorite, if I had to say the scariest, if I had to say one who, beyond a shadow of a doubt, belongs on this Mount Rushmore of horror characters, it is and will always be Michael.
And it may be safe to say, since they come afterwards, but there would possibly be no Jason or a Freddy without a Michael Myers. There may not be, but you could also say the same for Michael. There may not be a Michael Myers without a Texas Chainsaw.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's all a matter of opinion. Personally, though, as you know from us, Halloween is just as perfect of a horror movie as you can get. Plain and simple. The original. Now, there are ones that are not in that series, but we aren't talking about them. This is a celebration of the top four.
Our top four, not
Our top
yours.
four, yeah.
We'd love to hear yours.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to hear everybody's top four. Okay, so I guess that comes to my last one. Right?
That's yours.
And this is not necessarily
one.
number one. I didn't really put them in order.
No worries.
But for me, I have to give some creature feature love. Little creature feature love. And I have to give one of my all-time personal favorites, a movie that has been around for a long time. There's been various iterations of it. It has spawned tons of different inspired movies based on it and the disease that is it, and that would be Wolfman. Lycans.
What was it?
Wolfman.
Wolfman, got you.
Wolfman from the original Universal, the Lon Chaney Jr., even to the Benicio del Toro version. It has spawned movies such as American Werewolf in Paris. Like, any werewolf movie is coming off of Wolfman, the story of Wolfman and lycanthropy and all that stuff. I love Wolfman. Obviously, I'm a big werewolf fan. Huge into that. And so Wolfman is arguably my favorite Universal monster, and to me, it deserves to be up there because you've gained so many great werewolf movies from that.
Mhm.
So I feel like you have to put it in the top list. Do you agree with Wolfman? Are you happy with?
I'm a huge fan of the Wolfman and a lot of his iterations. So absolutely, I'm okay with that. I think that's a great
I mean,
decision. I
we
think
could
that's a great
name
choice.
werewolf movies for days. That I mean, Wolfman is what started it. Um, I do want to do quick honorable mentions, and one of them I'm very
Oh
curious to
yeah,
see
I've
what
got
Christian says.
yeah.
I don't have many. There's a couple that definitely I was thinking hard about. Um, Leatherface is one, just because
Mhm.
as I keep bringing up Leatherface, helps star a lot of things. So I feel like you have to pay your dues. Um, I was doing my damnedest to avoid making it a very slasher heavy list still. As you all know, me and Christian tend to like slashers a little more. We lean towards slashers. So, with that being said, Pamela Voorhees would have possibly been on the list.
Mhm.
Really like that. I love the first one. I love the twist of her and the mom, and then her presence, if you will, through some of the others with Jason. Past that, I'm wearing him today. Sam just doesn't have a big enough body of work for me to put him there. Is he one of my all-time favorites and top 5 favorite character? 100%. But do I think he deserves the body of work or to be on there? Not at this moment, but he was in consideration. Ash from Evil Dead. I feel like him and his body of work, he could have been
Mhm.
an easy pick to go up there. A Back to Halloween, because we can't keep John Carpenter and Halloween out of our mouths. Dr. Loomis, again,
Absolutely.
a very critical part of the franchise and a character that could easily be on the top list. And then a final one that I was considering and I was really hard thinking about. But I guess it's a creature feature in a sense, but it's also, I don't know, but there is a massive, massive body of work. And I don't fully count it horror, so I kind of had to rule it out. Godzilla.
Fair. Fair.
I don't really know. To me, it's not really horror. Like, it's not. But it is, I guess, a creature feature by definition.
Mhm.
Um,
I think where Godzilla started is definitely horror. Where
yeah.
he
I
started is
mean, that's
definitely
what.
horror.
And there is a massive body of work that has
Yeah. Yeah.
spanned generations. I mean, I
Mhm.
think the first movie was like, what, in the 50s, maybe? Like, it's been
Yes, it
around for
was
a long, long
54.
time. And it has
For sure, that was
terrified
54.
people for a long time, like different ways. So, and there's a ton of other honorable mentions, could say, but I'm gonna keep that list kind of short right now for the sake of time, and we're gonna
Yeah.
let Christian do his honorable mentions.
I'm gonna keep mine as short as I can as well. These are could be on this list, and I ruled them out for one reason or the other. But first on that list, even though I don't like how this character was brought to life, if you will, and I don't like where the character went, the first movie for the Creeper for Jeepers Creepers, oh, I mean, horrifying. What it represents, the lore that we got, fantastic. Could have easily been on the list if I took out some things that would really bother me about the list. Ellen Ripley. We're talking about Final
I
Girls. Ellen
almost
Ripley, I
said
think.
her or the Xenomorph, morph, just because.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. The Predator was also on my list. But where the Predator ended up as opposed to started, very different places. And that's why I enjoy Prey so much, because it kind of brought that character back to being a little bit more grounded, not necessarily in reality, but just grounded the character in general. I did enjoy that. Um, Jason Voorhees could have been on my list. I really enjoy the character of Jason. Don't necessarily like every single movie, but like I'll tell you what. When we first see Jason like proper in Friday 13th Part 2, and then how that character evolves, and then you get your character of Tommy Jarvis, who was also an honorable mention, because as a final boy, if you will, I really liked him as a character, and like where they took him. They took him to some weird places in Part 5 for sure, but like I really did enjoy his character. And Jason, when he comes back as like zombie Jason that everybody knows and loves, Part 7, fantastic. That's the best looking Jason we've ever had. The best body actor we had with Kane Hodder, in my opinion. Like I just really like Jason, even though the movie wasn't great. I love Jason in that movie, and that's what I think about when I think of Jason Voorhees. Then you have, of course, Freddy. Like, come on, what Freddy represents, what Freddy does, like fantastic. The reason why Freddy's not on the list is because I literally was trying not to just do all slashers again. And if I had to choose a slasher, my favorite one is Michael. And then if I chose Freddy, I would have easily gone down that road of putting in a ghost face, and then it would have just been like my last list, which was just slashers. So I didn't want to do that again. But those are my honorable mentions, and I wanted to let everybody know I did think about adding those characters to the list. There were other characters too, but for the sake of
There's a
time, they're
lot of
not on
characters
it.
that you can make arguments for.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
like Christian said earlier, let us know you're on your Mount Rushmore. We'd love to hear it.
Yeah, please.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's all of the meat and potatoes we have today. But it's time that we
pass the whiskey.
That's right. Get your
Whiskey.
as we go into another spooky edition of Last Call. Christian, what you got for us? You have a question on me.
I do have a question to keep us on the same train that we were on for meat and potatoes.
Christian,
And I want to keep it horror.
Oh, there he is. Okay.
I'm going to ask us another Mount Rushmore question. So I wanted to ask, for your Mount Rushmore of horror, who would be your top 4 directors of horror?
Directors
So
of
give me your
horror.
Mount Rushmore. Give me your Mount Rushmore of directors.
Okay. First and foremost, easy layups on the first 2. You have John Carpenter. Obviously, it's not like we haven't praised Halloween every breath of this podcast and every podcast, but John Carpenter, not just for Halloween, but you have The Thing and you have vampires and you have a wonderful body of work. Definitely a big integral part in the horror community.
I gotta say, John Carpenter's Vampires is probably one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
Oh yeah, no, it sucks. But I'm just throwing movies out there. Like there's more, but that's one of the one for some reason that always pops into my head. Probably because what's his face? James Woods is in it.
James Woods. Yes.
It's not a great vampire movie, but you know.
If you take a shot every time he says the word Padre, you will be destroyed, shit tanked by the end of that movie.
But if you take The Thing and you take Halloween and stuff, John Carpenter. Obviously, you cannot have this list, in my opinion, and I will die on this hill without Wes Craven. Wes Craven has done the more known things that most people obviously hopefully know: Nightmare on Elm Street, Screams, but Wes Craven has also done movies such as Hills Have Eyes, which has had remakes and stuff, Last House on the Left, and many more. So Wes Craven 100% has to be on Mount Rushmore horror directors. Are we supposed to be going one back and forth, or am I just doing all 4?
Let's go ahead and finish your 4.
Okay, I totally screwed that up, but
No worries.
okay. Next up, see how Christian feels about this. George A. Romero, the godfather of zombies and the undead.
I can't disagree.
So you have to have him, because if you have any zombie movies, you don't have zombie movies without Romero. Romero is what made zombie movies, in my opinion.
You don't have good zombie movies without Romero.
Fair. Are there directors like Lucio Fulci and stuff like that? Yes. And do they possibly deserve to be up here? Yes. But Romero. I have to say Romero, Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead. Like, just, yeah, Romero. Easy. All right, last one. Alfred Hitchcock.
Nice. Old school. I see you.
Got to go Alfred Hitchcock. Terrified people forever from, what was it called? Hitchcock Presents, where he'd walk into the shadow, like the little outline, not the shadow. That to stories like Birds, Psycho, I believe is Hitchcock.
Yep. Psycho's absolutely Hitchcock.
God, dude, there's a ton. There's a ton. So you have to have Hitchcock to me, and that's my 4.
Okay. I'll do mine pretty quickly because 2 of yours are the exact same as mine, and that would be obviously John Carpenter, our boy, and Wes Craven. Without them, we wouldn't have Ghostface, we wouldn't have Michael Myers. Right? And those are 2 of my favorite characters and slashers in history. So
You
absolutely.
Freddy.
And Freddy, excuse me. But so those 2 directors definitely have their spot on my list. The next two were very difficult. I'm gonna tell you guys one of the directors that was on my list that I had to take off was Mike Flanagan. I loved I have liked almost everything Mike Flanagan has done, almost. But I took him off the list because I definitely wanted to add Jordan Peele to the list. And even though Jordan Peele's work isn't necessarily scary, it's still good. It tells a story. It speaks on social commentary like another director we both have
Definitely
on
one
our
of the
list, which is
very
Wes Craven.
top modern horror directors, for sure.
Absolutely. Now, do I think that everything Jordan Peele makes is a masterpiece? No, but I have liked everything that he's done, and I think that he, given the time, given the money, given the space, does really good work. Um, but the director that I took Mike Flanagan off to replace him with is a Japanese horror director by the
Mike
name of
Flanagan's who
Takashi.
does Midnight Mass and stuff, is he not?
That's him. Yeah,
Okay.
he did Midnight Mass. He did
Blah
Doctor
House, Hill
Doctor
House,
Sleep,
Blah Manor. Sorry, Hill
um,
House, Midnight
Hill House,
Society.
Bly Manor, Doctor Sleep. He just did House of the Fall Usher,
I didn't know
which I
he
haven't
did
seen yet.
Doctor Sleep.
Did Doctor Sleep.
This dude's about to be having
What
all kinds of work thrown at him now. He's done his Netflix contract.
Right. But with that said, Takashi Shimizu is who I had to put on the list. And for those of you who don't know who that is, shame on you. But he is the director who did not only but also the American version of Grudge. He did both versions because he's a fucking G. He did Tomei, excuse me. He's done a lot of work, but those are just the three that I think that most people would know without knowing any Japanese or any J horror. I think you would know who that is. And I actually at some point do an episode just fully devoted to J horror, just so that we can educate, or at least I can try to educate some of you guys on more J horror that you should be watching if you haven't watched them already, because that's a subgenre that I really like, and that a friend of mine Will also really likes, that we like to talk about every chance we get, because not everybody is able to join in on that. But yeah, that John Carpenter, Wes Craven, Jordan Peele, and then Takashi Shimizu. Those are definitely my Mount Rushmore of horror directors.
Nice.
That could change in a week, but right now, that's it for me.
I have to
And
give
like
honorable
I was
mention
saying,
to Clive Barker. I really
that
considered
makes
him
sense.
as well, but yeah.
I don't think Clive Barker is a great horror director.
You cut
That
out
was the
what?
difference for me. I don't think that he's the best director, but I think he's a great.
Yeah.
So that's why.
Well, he didn't get
that
the
was
list
there.
just because I felt stronger about
Yeah.
others.
But I had some other directors that I could have put on this list. Obviously, Ari Aster could have been on this list.
Yep.
Guillermo del Toro could have been on this list. David Cronenberg was almost on the
Cronenberg?
list for me. And then the last one was Takashi Miike, another Takashi, was almost on the list as well, because he did Ichi the Killer, he did The Audition, and I believe he did the live action version of Blade of the Immortal as well. So like he's all over the place. Takashi Miike does some fantastic stuff. He's able, but not everything he does is horror, and he's more known for stuff that's not necessarily horror. So that's why I didn't put him on the list. But he's definitely another honorable mention. But with that said, that's all I got for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed the episode.
Absolutely. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like your last call question to be featured on an episode, join the Gilded server, gilded.gg/Sinister pack in the application. Just put from the pod, and you will get accepted. There's a whole section dedicated to the podcast. You will see it with our little logo there. You have episode chat. You have show us what you're sipping on. You have Christian's Corner, where you can talk about all kinds of stuff. Sinister Tale things that go bump in the night. And then a Bell Witch episode is coming soon. We will be doing that and discussing that in the very near future, hopefully. And then you also have a last call question where you get your question featured. Other than that, you can check us out on socials at Sippin With Sin, SIPPIN with Sin, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and Threads. And you can drop us a line there. Follow us. Tell us about the episode. Tell us your Rushmore for directors. Tell us your Rushmore for horror in general. Or drop your last call question over there if you don't drop it in Gilded. Past that, new episodes come out every Wednesday, 8 a.m. Central Time on Apple, Spotify, Google, Overcast, and more. 8 a.m. every Wednesday. Drop 5 stars. Follow, subscribe, share it with a friend. Continue to spread the word of the show. And to show the episode's love, we greatly, greatly appreciate it. You can watch the video version on my personal YouTube, youtube.com/IamSinister. Be sure to thumbs up, subscribe to it. It comes out also Wednesdays, 8 a.m. Central Time, every Wednesday. You can find me on my personal socials at Twitter, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at IamSinisterTV. You can find me at Facebook.com/IamSinisterTV. You You can find me at twitch.tv/IamSinisterTV, and then you can find me streaming on Kick pretty much all week, doing music, doing all kinds of stuff. Been playing spooky games and all that fun stuff at kick.com/IamSinister, and that's where you can find me. Christian, where can the lovely folks find you?
You guys can find me on my own personal Instagram at Venant.
And Christian cut out again. Say that again.
Of course I did, because that's what we do. But I was saying you guys can.
Oh my God. Why is it censored? It's like you can find me.
That's hilarious. It doesn't want.
Oh my God.
But I am on Instagram.
Venant Inc. on Instagram.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You guys can also find me on the TikTok at just Christian Vincent.
Just his name, Christian Vincent.
Is it still doing it? That's hilarious.
You can find me on TikTok at just mine Vincent.
Actually, you guys can't find me. That's the whole point. You guys can't find me online because I'm in
Christian Vincent TikTok, Venant Inc. Instagram.
Yeah, and then my own horror podcast at Horrorverse Pod at all the
Horrorverse Pod. Just
thank you so much.
Yeah, there you go. All right. I don't know why Christian's mic hates us apparently, but it's time. Spooky season may be over. We may be a day removed. And maybe next year before you embrace the spookiness again. But for us, we're embracing it all the time. So feel a little easier as you walk the streets tonight, leaving this establishment. But things may still be out there lurking. I don't know. But you don't have to go home. You just got to get the hell up out of here. You got to deal with it yourself. We're closing the doors till next week. So it's time for Christian to lock it down tight.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in to yet another episode of With Sin. Be sure to leave a 5-star review. I will be soon. Go ahead and click that like button. Let us know what you guys want to see in the future of other episodes. But until then, I'm going to leave you guys with 3 words. 3 words I'll leave you with every episode. Have you heard them before? Say them with me. If you've never heard them, listen carefully because they may just save your life. And those words are, don't get gutted.
See you guys next week.